So I've got another double dose guest host for the month of June. A couple of months ago, I was featured as a guest host on the Speculative Sandbox, which is an amazing podcast hosted by Vickie Lan. I thought she would make a great guest host in return, so here's Vickie offering you her top 10 book recs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vickie Lan from the Speculative Sandbox podcast. I'm so thankful to Garrett K for inviting me onto his series to share with you 10 books of my recommendations. So let's jump right into it. I decided to focus on 10 inventive books with something to say, or I like to call these books that have thought exercises in them. So without much ado, let's begin. Let's start with The Body Scout by Michel. I love this book because it is a look at the future of healthcare in a world where you can either do body modifications with like bionics, or you can explore pharmaceuticals. And what makes this book so fun and interesting is it takes the perspective of the sports industry. So imagine a future where sports have been influenced and changed by these advancements in technology. Next, we have Moonbound by Sloan. This was a really fun read. It's science fiction fantasy. It takes place on thousands of years into the future on Earth, when a new society is completely taken over and the world isn't what we can recognize anymore. I love books like this. This is the first time I ever felt like I did reading The Hobbit for the first time, or watching Lord of the Rings for the first time. Moonbound put me in a fresh perspective in a fresh world. Next, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a fascinating alternate historical fiction. It looks at colonialism coming out of the UK into other parts of the world, specifically through the use of language and magic, where words have magic and you are able to etch spells or magic into objects by writing words into those materials with a special tool. What's fascinating about this is you can't just look at you can't just decide to write any word into a tool. Let's say that you want to write the word fire into a table because you want to set it on fire, for example. The word fire, the language itself is steeped in history and uses. And so depending on what word you use, you could be evoking a different kind of magic based off of its own history. All right, we have The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This is definitely a more lighthearted thought exercise. This book is about a woman who comes home one day and discovers that there's a man in her house. I mean, she's not married, she's not dating. There's a man in her house, and she realizes as she looks around the room that they're married. They have photos of their wedding. They have clear remnants of a life together throughout the apartment. And at one point, she sends him up to the attic to get something, and when he comes back down, he's a completely different man. Thus, she discovers that the attic holds an eternity of different husbands that she could have had in the many multiverses of her life. We have The Warehouse by Rob Hart. I've had the privilege to interview Rob Hart a couple times on Speculative Sandbox. Very smart and compassionate man. And that compassion shines in this book. So The Warehouse takes place in a dystopian future, a corporatocracy where an Amazon-esque corporation has essentially taken over the world and governs the world. And really the best way to have to work is to work for this company. And it explores, he took real world situations like apartment complexes and dorms that they built for workers for Amazon and explored what it's like to be living and working in those conditions, how this company gamifies work performance, but they set impossible goals. Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Eames. I loved this. This was a very, very fun, I guess you could say thought exercise, where the heart and soul of the book is about intertwining fantasy tropes with 80s metal bands, which is sensational. I love this so much. So it's about a group of men and kind of like, past their prime. They used to be the kinds of guys that you hire to go defeat a troll or slay a dragon in this fantasy medieval world. And they've kind of, the band's broken up. They've all gone their separate ways until one of them tries to bring the band back together to save his daughter. And thus their adventures begin. The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. Kind of like a 180 from the Kings of the Wyld, where you had a lot of positive male friendships in this. The Knife of Never Letting Go examines a toxic male society in the future, where in this future, all the women have died. And the main character is a boy, and I believe he's the youngest of that society that he's in. And he, for whatever reason, after they had takes place on an alien planet, and for whatever reason, they can all hear their thoughts. And after a while, something happened; all the women died out. And so it's a society of just the men, but you can hear their thoughts, and it's an interesting look into the psychology of what these particular male characters are thinking all the time. There's a lot of anger and frustration and fear, and they're headed by a mayor and a preacher. When the Moon Hits Your Eye by John Scalzi, and I hope I said that right, John Scalzi. This is a very fun thought exercise. This is what happens if the moon was suddenly replaced by cheese. And I'm about halfway through it right now, so this is what I'm actively reading. And it's fascinating because it takes you through, each chapter is a day in the lunar cycle after the moon changes, and it examines how society responds to this. It starts with the people closest to it, the people that are that take care of like the museums where the moon rocks are stored. Then it goes into the astronauts who are impacted because they were supposed to be the next ones to land on the moon, and now they have to postpone the trip because you can't be landing people on the moon when it's made out of cheese, especially when said cheese is volatile and compressing on itself and causing geysers and explosions. So it's so funny to me. It's absurd. I love absurdism. All Are Wrong Todays by Elan Mastai. Time travel. I love time travel. So in this book, what I liked about this is the mechanism for which time travel is made possible. And the way that they do this is, if you think about it, and staying in theme with our solar system, Earth is constantly moving. And when the Earth is moving, if you were to travel back in time 5 months ago, the Earth is no longer where it was 5 months ago. So if time travel was a literal occurrence or literal phenomenon, you would end up in the middle of space and you'd instantly die. So something has to tether you to the Earth. And the way that that is accomplished in this book is you could only accomplish time travel after the invention of a specific power source is made, a power source that takes energy from the turning of the Earth. And then finally, we have Futuristic Violence in Fancy Suits by Jason Pargin. This one came out several years ago. He has since written many follow-ups to it. Jason Pargin is one of my favorite authors. I also had the privilege of interviewing him. He's a phenomenal person, and he's so funny, and he's big on TikTok, so check him out. But in this book, I would say this book came out quite a while ago, maybe 10 years ago, although I'm not 100% sure anymore. He talks about the Blink network, where everyone walks around with surveillance glasses, and that's what they use as their cameras to film anything that they're doing. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, like it's just constantly on, and that becomes a new social media. But as a result of this technology, privacy is completely gone. And so if you're a person on the run, which our main character is, there's no way to escape, because as long as there's someone around, there's someone who's picked up on your whereabouts. Well, there you have it. Those are my top 10 books right now. Top 10 books with something to say, or top 10 books with very interesting thought exercises.
I'll have more from Vickie in just a moment, but if you're interested in her recommendations, you'll find those titles and their ISBN numbers down in the video description.